Welcome to another episode of Mostly Running Garage. Today, we tackle that faulty alternator. If you watched a previous episode of Mostly Running Garage, we got that rear end assembly back in, got about halfway around the block, and it shut off and died. Lo and behold, the alternator's bad. It's starting to kill the battery, won't start on its own. So we need to put an alternator in it today. Well, while we're throwing an alternator in, I know the V-belts on here haven't been replaced since we put the engine in 6-7 years ago. So we're gonna go ahead and replace the two V-belts as well. One V-belt will go around towards the alternator, one up to the power steering and AC compressor. So we're gonna replace both of those as well while we're in here. I'm gonna bring you in, show you the parts that we've got that's gonna be going into here, and then we'll look at the car itself, see what do we need to do to actually get that alternator out, get these V-belts off, replace them. Let's get to it. We've got our parts over here on the bench. We got our two belts, one for one, one for the other. We'll figure out which side is which once we dig into it. I don't remember the part numbers anymore. Then we've got our alternator. This is a 165 amp high output alternator. The reason I went with the high output 165 is I've got a really heavy duty cooling package on here that draws a lot of power with those electric fans. It does have a radio in it, nothing crazy. It does have a small amp in the back. It's very minimal stuff. The big reason I went with that is eventually, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this car in the future. It might stay carburetor, it might get a 6-pack, it might get fuel injection. And if it does get fuel injection, that's gonna draw more power from my alternator and battery too. So I just wanna be prepared for anything we go to in the future. These are gonna be the parts we're throwing on. I did get them all from Summit Racing. They get a lot of my money. But that's the price you pay for the big block. So let's look under the hood, see what we're working with, and get started, get to work. On this vehicle, we do have the CVF Racing bracketry on here for the 440 swap that we did complete on this. In order to get our alternator out, we need to get this belt off. To get the belt off, we need the tension off. To get the tension off, there's a little tensioner down here, jam nuts, to push and pull whatever way we need for the tension. So that's how the belt is going to come off. The alternator itself is very simple. It's just a bolt on. Take out our bolts here and one up here, and that alternator will come right out. First things first, we got to get the belt off. Let me get some wrenches, get you guys set up here so you can see what is going on, and we'll get to work. I've got my wrench here. It's going to be a 9/16 wrench to loosen that tensioner. So let's go ahead and just dive right in. Get to work already, for Pete's sake. We're back on the charger. It's been a few days. Life got in the way. We're going to get back to work here. I got the tensioner off so we can get that belt loose. I've got the alternator pushed down, which then loosened the tension on that belt. So we got the belt slipped off. Right now we're going to be working on the other belt that holds the power steering, AC compressor, and the crank. Get that belt off, and then we can get the belt that's on our alternator off of the crank itself as well and get moving from there. So we're going to get going on that. I've got our battery disconnected, so we don't got to worry about anything when we're getting deeper into the alternator. I got that off already. We've got the tensioner on the upper belt, which is our power steering, goes to the power steering pump and the AC compressor. We've got that tensioner broke loose, so now we just got to turn the tensioner to loosen the pressure. Now that we have both belts off, we can go ahead and remove our alternator. It's going to be 2 bolts to take out. Let's get it out, look at it, and then we can get our new one in and move on and hopefully get this thing back on the road. I've got one of these I got one of the bolts pretty loose. We're gonna go ahead and remove all of our wiring off the back of our alternator here, so we're not breaking any wires. We're ready to roll, and we put the new one in. So we got 2 wires here that just pop off. And then we've got 1 cable in the back that we have to remove a nut on, and then take the nut off, and then the whole wire will come off like that. Nice and easy. So we're gonna go ahead and get that guy out of there. All right, 1 nut off. Try not to lose that sucker. We can slide our wire off. Now all our wiring is loose and off of here. And the only thing holding us on is 1 more bolt here, which is very loose, and we can go ahead and get this old alternator that has failed on us out of here. So we got 1 spacer that we need to make sure we're not gonna lose there. There's the bolts. We can pull our whole bad alternator right on out like that. Now that we have it out, we got to grab our old alternator, or new alternator, I'm sorry, and see where this bracket for this setup lines up on the new one. Get this unbolted, put it on the new one, and get the new one in. All right, we're back. Another new shirt, another couple days later. The reason it's been another couple days later is because the alternator that we had ordered was wrong. For a couple of reasons. First reason being, it's got a new style connector right here instead of the old style prongs. It also does not match up with our brackets. So there's no mounting holes on the front here to put the brackets so we can mount it in the car. So we had to go and order a new one again. And that's going to be this guy. Now this one is a 110, not the 165 like I previously stated earlier in the video, which is more than enough for what this car is going to do. And I'm happy with that. It's got the old school prongs here, 2 prongs that we need. It's got our ground cable attachment, and it's got the holes to mount our bracketry. So now we can actually go ahead and finally put our bracketry on, mock it up in the car, make sure everything's going to line up, get our belts back on, put our battery back together, and get the car back on the road. I'm going to go ahead, take this one away. Since this was wrong, we'll be getting returned to Summit. So let me get this out of the way so I don't lose it, and we can get that put back. Then we'll get to putting these brackets on. We got our bracket here. It's going to attach to our alternator. These 2 bolts here are what hold it to the alternator. This bolt here attaches it to the motor and the rest of the assembly. And it simply just bolts on nice and easy. I'll bring you in here and show you what we're dealing with here. Let me get this started here and I can show you. Now this is just lightly bolted on here. I don't have it tightened down yet, but it's just held on by these 2 bolts here. And then once I tighten those down, I can go and bring this back to the car and get it bolted back into where the old one was, and we can keep rolling. All right, I got a tool. We're gonna go ahead and just tighten these down real quick. Just snug. It doesn't have to be super overly done torqued. But now that we have that bracket on, we can go ahead, take it to the car, mock it up, make sure everything is good there. So we'll go ahead and do that next. I got the alternator mounted up in here. Now we're going to attach the electrical, and then we'll go through and start doing all their belts. So next I'm going to do our ground wire, which was the one that we had to remove the nut for. So we're going to get that guy on because that's the biggest one. Let's get the biggest one out of the way, and then it's just click, click, wiring done. Boom, slide her on, put our nut on. Finger tight, and Make sure it's nice and tight with a ratchet, because if you have a bad ground, you have a bad day. Bad ground, bad day. Move in, make sure our boot is in place. Boom, over that. Then we can connect our little push wires here, little connectors. One, and two. We got all our wiring connected up. Now it's just putting the belts back on. We got belt number one. It's gonna go around our crank. First, then up to our alternator. Loosen the bolts on our alternator that we just tightened, so we have some movement. Just loosening them, I'm not removing. Just loosening so we can maneuver the alternator around and get everything where we need it. Now we got the belt on. We just gotta tighten our belt tension, get our tension set right. And it's just the same thing we've been doing, but the opposite direction. So tighten this belt up, and then we can go put the belt on the other side. All right, so we got the belts on, alternator all hooked up, got the battery hooked up. The last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna fire it up, put my meter on it, and make sure this thing is charging. And then the alternator install will be done, and this will be roadworthy once more. So let's fire it up. All right, we got it fired up. Let's see if we're charging. All right, we're gonna give it a little throttle. And I got 13.9, 14.8. I'm happy. That is charging. All right, alternator's in. It's working as it should. We're getting 14 volts on throttle. I'm happy with that. That's gonna do it for this episode of Mostly Running Garage. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up, including Holly joining the channel. We'll see you next time.